Welcome back, you guys, to Cerebral Palsy and Fitness Podcast. I'm here with Bethany. She is here to talk about her personal journey in regards to her disability, which is Charge syndrome, and she's also a an owner of her own business. Welcome, Bethany.
Yeah. Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me on. This is great.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to have you on today. Um, my first question to you and our listeners is, what is Charge syndrome, and how did you come across that?
Yeah. So charge syndrome is an acronym, and it's from birth. And so I always butcher this, so I'm like literally reading it out because I'm not the pro at any of this. But each letter stands for something different. So C stands for coloboma, and what coloboma is it's when the eyes are not formed properly. And for mine it goes all the way back to the optic nerve. And so I've always had vision loss my entire life. And then H stands for heart. So usually there's some kind of heart deformity. For me, I have a pacemaker, and so that kind of helps me out with that. A is atresia calypsia. It's basically when something blocks the nasal passages, and so different people would charge that looks in totally different ways. But when I was born, I literally had to have those little I forgot what they're called, but the little straws that
Oh
go up in your
no.
nose that form the nasal passages.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, R is for restricted growth and development, and that shows up in many different ways. Sometimes that's with like physical like limbs or something. Like for me, I have a short right arm and a small right hand, and some of my like I don't know, like some of it might look a little different. Everybody's different in that way, and so usually that's a marker of it as well. Um, they have the genital abnormalities, which can look totally different, and then ear abnormalities. So my left ear, barely has any kind of opening. And so they did manage to get a hearing aid in there. So I do have bone conduction, so I still have some hearing. But yeah, so for everybody, it looks
Wow.
different. So yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. And are you able to show like your arm so we can see how
Yeah.
short it is?
Yeah, no, I can show. So this is my left, so it's normal, and this is my right. And so it's small,
Wow.
and yeah. So it's always been like that.
That
But
is that is so that is
it,
so unique. That's really cool. I'm sure you get people. I'm sure you get a lot of people asking you questions about it, right? Out in public and.
yeah, I have, but and I don't know if you've ever discovered this too, but like when it's kids asking questions, it is like so much better sometimes than
Mm-hmm.
adults because adults
Mm-hmm.
don't. I think adults are so worried about offending you, where kids are just like blunt. I'm like, much rather have a kid just like bluntly ask me
Right.
than
Right.
adults kind of like pretending like it's not there.
Yeah. Kids are. It's mostly curiosity. So
Hmm.
a lot of them are wanting to learn like what it is and what happened. So it's not so
Yes.
much of a bother to me like when it comes to disabilities. But then there's adults that they know better, but they say things that are kind of, out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes you have to kind of bring it down, like I
Yes.
get you're like you want to say something and you don't mean it offensively, but a lot of people that are in the disability community, they take criticism differently. Some people take it as, oh, it's just them saying stuff and it doesn't bother me. And some people are really like, they get really upset.
Yeah. And I think some of it's just like me inviting people into that, and just giving them a space to go, hey, get curious with me. And that's what I appreciate rather than people just assuming. But I'm learning how to do that too. Even with my kids, I'll assume something and they'll correct me. They're like, "No, mom, like you're going off, your own way." And so I think that plays a huge part too. Just inviting people into curiosity and asking questions and knowing more about me and knowing more about them too.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating about you is you, despite dealing with those kinds of limitations, you're also a parent. And I'm sure that's another big factor too that you deal with as far as an obstacle with out in public too, right? When you're out with your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm a single mom of three amazing boys. I've got an 11-year-old, a 14-year-old, and 16-year-old. And because I have a 16-year-old, he is the driver, so that's a good thing. So,
Hey, he
yeah.
gets to do you get to do all the errands with him, and he helps you out. And I'm sure all of your kids they help you in different ways as far as if you do need something, because you mentioned you're also very independent, so that's a good thing too.
Yeah, well, and I know everybody's different as far as, how everybody's different, period, like how we approach the world, right? And so for me, like when I was growing up, my parents were just like they not that they ignored the disability, they didn't do that, but they're just like, that's not going to be a hurdle for you. So they didn't really necessarily help me figure out how to do it, but it was more like, hey, you have a soccer throw in, you have to use both arms, do it. So I was kind of with that mindset of, okay, it has to get done, so I just have to like do it. And there's there's borders to that, I think. Like there's healthy and unhealthy versions of that, but I've learned in my later age to realize what I can and can't do, but there's a lot that I've been able to do
Right,
that maybe others with the same challenges have never tried, just because, you
right,
know,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, it's never easy. Hey, buddy, you
right?
okay? We're here recording together. Yeah, you see jumping outside there. Yeah, it's one of those things that you have to adapt to, and I'm sure you mentioning your parents, you growing up, you probably faced a lot of adversity with your classmates and everything.
Oh, you cut out a little bit there. What was that?
You probably faced a lot of adversities, growing up as a child, right? Being in the
Hmm.
classroom and with your
Oh yeah.
peers,
Oh yeah.
especially with kids,
Yeah, and
bullying you,
what was that?
kids bullying you.
Yes. Bullying was a huge thing. And I'm trying to think, I mean, one of the earliest memories I have was being in kindergarten and actually falling asleep. And this is before I had any hearing aids or anything like that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know what it was like being bullied to made fun of. It wasn't never easy as a kid
Yep.
either. I mean,
Yes.
being told, hey, you walk differently, you act differently, um, but you never let it bother you. It's a you use this as a teachable moment where you teach your peers about you, and to accept you for
Yes.
who you are.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, I don't know the age difference here, so I'm in my 40s, so I don't know if that
I'm
shows you
in my
anything, but
early 30s, 33 now, so
oh, okay, so like
it's
10,
pretty
no, not
close.
even 10. It's pretty
Pretty
close,
close, yeah.
yeah. And so back in the day or whatever, when I was in like elementary school, I had to wear these like really thick glasses. I mean, it
Oh
made like
no.
a dent on my nose. And then my hearing aids at the time when I actually got them were on the sides of my glasses, which I
Oh.
don't even know if they have those anymore. I haven't seen them.
Yeah, I haven't
But
seen
that's
them
just,
since I was a kid.
yeah, it's like weird. But with that, when I first got them, I told all the kids that I could listen to music whenever I wanted to.
Oh,
Yeah, and
clever,
they were just like,
clever.
"What?" They didn't do that. But, I was trying to fit in. I was trying to be cool, and I think it's all how you approach it. If you're trying to fit in, it's not going to work out. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, it's not meant. I don't think any of us, regardless of where we are on our ability spectrum, whatever, we're not meant to fit in. We're meant to like, discover how God has made us and then walk that out. So like if you're a runner, go run. If you're a singer, go sing, but do what makes you feel alive rather than trying to fit into everybody else's mold.
Right, right. And you have done phenomenal as far as, being able to live your life despite your limitations and everything else. And you just have to keep on going.
Yeah. Well, and just I don't know, I've always had the phraseology of why not. Like nowadays, I look at the risks, and I am an adrenaline
Right.
junkie. I don't know about you, but like, I usually use the example of I had a really good friend that wanted to go skydiving a little bit ago, and I knew she wanted to do this, but she literally showed up at my door. She said, "Hey, do you want to go skydiving? I'm like, well, yeah, sure. Sometimes she's like, no, now. And so I looked at my calendar. I'm like, well, I have to be back by 3 o'clock. I have a call at 3. She's like, okay, let's go. So literally, we went skydiving an hour away, did all of this.
Yeah.
I made it back, but before my call at 3, and I was like, this is awesome. And so and everyone's like, why did you go skydiving? I'm like, it's the most amazing experience. Why not if you can? So anyway,
Uh,
that's just an example.
Yeah, hey, do what you love to do and do it early because you never know if you might get that chance.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, aside from the parenting, growing up, and everything else, you also are involved in several businesses and other ventures. What are some of those things you're involved in?
Yeah. So I own a mental health coaching business. And so for that one, I mainly work with Christian counselors and leaders. And, especially right now, a lot of counselors and like people that offer care are doing a lot of one on one. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but many people are trying to get into counseling and they just can't. They cannot get in to see a proper professional,
Right.
or they get somebody that's just bad. I don't mean to be, but they're just like not. And so what I'm doing is I'm working with a lot of these professionals to open groups so that way they can work with 6 to 7 people at the same time and go
Right.
deep. And that way, they don't get burned out because we're losing a lot of professional counselors right now because they're getting burned out.
Oh
And
yeah, I feel
yeah,
like it's with every profession. When it comes, specifically the professions that require you to assist people, healthcare, education, um, counseling. Those because I feel like a lot of people are, and this is my opinion, they're demanding more help. They
oh
want
yeah,
more help, but then there's not enough providers to give
yes,
that help. So then you're dealing with
yeah,
a backlog of of people wanting, and then you get burnt out, and then eventually leave because you just can't take it.
yeah, yeah. And imagine David, you have a friend that comes like, hey, bro, I just need to talk. And some people have that capacity to be there for them, but a lot of people don't know how not to fix. And so
Right.
that's another thing that I just work with everybody on. It's like, okay, if I come to you, David, I'm like, man, I'm just having the crappiest day. And you go, oh, well, I know about that. You need to do this and this and this and this. Well, that may not be what I want. But instead, if you go, hey, Bethany, I'm willing to be with you. How can I best be with you right now? Can I ask you some curious questions? Do you want me to just sit with you? Do you want me to share something that has worked out in my life? By just giving options, you make space for me, and that could actually be what I need to move forward rather than a trip to the counselor's office. A lot of people just don't have that person that can just sit with them and be with them in that way.
Definitely, I agree. And sometimes, you ever encounter a situation where you're helping the person, but then they're in that pattern of repeating the same thing over and over and over, and it feels like it never ends.
Yeah, yeah. Can you give me an example without ratting the person out?
Of course, yeah. I was gonna say, like, I can give you an example, like, give or take, 5, 6 years ago. So I had a one of my co-workers that I used to work with. I was a lead at the time for AmeriCorps. I did AmeriCorps for a couple years, and one of the people that I work with, it was of course she was a phenomenal person, great human
Mhm.
being, but the only obstacle she was facing is every day it would be like, I can't get up. I'm like always upset about stuff. I have no money. My home life is always a mess, and I'm like, well, have you thought about this or have you thought about that? They're like, yeah, maybe it's something I could do. But then the week after, you'd come back again to the same circle after you've kind of you feel happy, but then you kind of go back down again to where you were. And so it's like, what else can I do? I've tried to help you and stuff, and eventually
Yeah.
the worst part about it is eventually all that stuff it kind of trickled into the workplace, and then it trickled into my team, and unfortunately it led to an intervention between myself and the lead the liaison, and then we gave her a plan to try to help her out, and she did not follow that plan, so eventually we had to let her go. And as much as you like the person and you care about them, at the end of the day you have to deal with the business, and you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what I'm hearing from that is that you cared a lot for
Hmm.
her.
Hmm.
And also, it's hard because some people don't know how to take responsibility for what's theirs and what's not
Right.
theirs.
Right.
And so for you, I think the hardest part for you in there is like you wanted to fix, you wanted to make this better. And meanwhile, she's just, it sounds like she was looking for either A, somebody to fix it for her, or B, she was looking for just a lot of times we just look for that one person to fill that void in our life, whatever that looks like.
Right.
Whether that's a parent role, whether that's a caregiver role, whether that's a child role, whatever. We don't mean to, it usually goes back to childhood wounds. And so, in that situation, if I was you in that situation, I would have had a sit down talk with her and just kind of like what we just role played a minute ago said, hey, man, I care for you so much. And I want you to be the best person you can on this team. But I'm noticing this pattern. So, what can I do best to help you out right now? And we want to be there for you, but we can only do X, Y, and Z. This is as much as we can do. But this is what we need for you to be able to do here at this job. So, how can we come alongside and help? But keep that responsibility between, make sure she knows what her responsibility is and make sure you outline what your responsibility is. And so
Right.
that's it. Because that, but that's a hard conversation to have. And so many people don't do that. They just like, oh, well, you're not doing what you need to at work. Bye. And that's not healthy either.
Oh yeah, it's brutal. The world can be like that. It can be very brutal. That it's they'll be like you're not doing what you're supposed to do, and they'll let you go. Unless you explain to them, hey, I'm going through some stuff, and then they'll be like,
Yeah.
we can try and find a way to help you, but you still need to be productive on the job.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the things too is you have to try to learn how to set aside personal and business when you're in the workplace.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that's just emotional regulation as well. But at the same time, I will say this one thing that I'm learning when I work with, because I work with organizations, I work with churches, I work with counselors, you would be shocked how many of us get into a business situation and we leave our emotions at the door like they don't matter. And then we wonder why the rest of our life is exploding and it's going to impact our work. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so I'm trying to develop a healthier way to have employers talk to their employees about emotions and just get it out there and let that be part of a safe protocol in their work environment. Because if we keep on taking all this crud from work outside with us, it's going to come back. It doesn't just magically never impact our job, right? And so
Right.
instead of just like, hey, stuffing it, just like, hey, give a permission for the boss to come up to an employee and say, hey, if you're angry at me, you can let me know without them getting fired. Because if they're angry at you, okay, but they're also responsible for how they handle their anger. But at least you get it out. Okay, let's work
Right.
through this. I'm your boss. I'm willing to stay with you throughout this process. So, I know that's got to be, I know that you feel like I'm not making the right choice right now, but I need this and this and this. But just because they validate the emotion, that already helps. You know what I'm saying? You're not ignoring it. So, anyway, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, that does make sense. And what's been the most rewarding or gratifying thing about what you do in mental
Mm,
health counseling?
I think, and the main thing I work with is small groups. So I work with like leaders, counselors, like any kind of leader. It doesn't have to be necessarily Christian even. And I meet with them in small groups, and our small groups meet every single week for at least 6 months. And if they continue after that, they learn how to launch similar groups that we do. And in those groups, we check in. We don't fix. We learn to share our stories in a healthy way. We learn to sit with other people in their hard stories. So I want you to picture a leader who maybe has gone through counseling, maybe back in the day, but really doesn't have anybody that understands them right now. And then all of a sudden they get to go to a group of people that are practicing the same thing that they are, and they get to check in and get cared for. And it's beautiful, but it also breaks them. And so I have to be with them when everything falls apart and they go, oh my gosh, because what they're experiencing in the group doesn't match what they're offering to their clients. And they're like, oh crud, what do I do? So they often have this period of time where they fall apart, which that's why we do 6 months of just receiving. And then they can decide after that if they want to keep on receiving or if they want to get in training with me so I can help them offer these same tools and resources with their clients. And so that's been the biggest rewarding part, is to not just, I don't want to be that person that everybody comes to me. That's not helping. Instead, I want people to experience and offer what they can experience to impact other people. So I'm seeing counselors and leaders, missionaries, organization leaders going through this, and then actually sitting with people in their own business, and it's trickling. And now I'm seeing like parents going home and doing the same stuff with their kids around the dinner table. I'm like, this is awesome. And so that's what I like to see. That's been the most rewarding part.
That's awesome. It sounds like people really care for you and care and value your feedback, and I bet some of them really like take it to heart and they really put in the effort and put in the work. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is hard work, right? I know we both know that.
Yes, that is true. You know, if we're not working hard enough, you know, there's stuff isn't happening.
Right?
All right. Well, Bethany, are there any resources out there that people that might be looking for help um, could could inquire into?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of different resources out there. The ones that I offer, like the groups that I offer, they can go to like BethanyBoring.com and get all the links for all that good stuff. I actually got a free ebook right now out that just helps people walk through if they want to start a group like this. You want to start a safe group where people can really share. How do you go about doing that? It doesn't just magically happen. I wish that magically happened, but it doesn't just magically happen. So it actually walks people through that process. There's other organizations out there like Luke 10 and Faith to Influence and Table and Well and Trauma Healing Institute. Like there's so many different organizations out there. I have that on my website too. But the most important part is that if somebody's listening and they're going, okay, I'm hearing what she's saying, I'm hearing what David's saying, I don't know if I have anybody in my life that's really a safe place. Well, you can start by learning how to be a safe place for other people.
Right.
You can do that first. And so be that one, because if you're asking that about yourself, there's other people out there that are asking that for them. And so when you can be safe with yourself and you can offer a safe place for other people, imagine what could happen out of that.
Yes, absolutely right. You know, and having a safe space is critical, especially when you're really down in the dumps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Bethany, what is one piece of advice you would leave us with as far as anything motivating, anything that can bring someone up right now?
Yeah. There's so many things. But I think the one thing that my guys and I look for, my guys meaning my kids, but they're all boys, so I use the word guys a lot around here. Even the pets. I have a cat and a dog, and they're boys too. So everything in this house is guy. But anyway, um, but one thing that we try to do every day is an appreciation, which I know that's so overused nowadays. It just, I'm not one of those that says, okay, let's go through the alphabet. Let's think it's up. That's just, no. But when you can slow down at the end of the day and you go, okay, what moment of today really brought me joy? And joy not being happy, because that's not the same thing. Joy is when you're with somebody or you're with something who is glad to be with you no matter what. The easiest is a dog. or a cat. You know, we always have those pets that are happy to be with us no matter what. Hopefully, we have a person that's happy to be with us no matter what. Hopefully, we have even a TV show, or maybe you go outside and you just get that like breath of fresh air that you need, and it's not raining, which isn't here right now. You know, whatever that is, maybe it's a cookie that you had. I mean, it doesn't have to be huge, but to really sit there, okay, and then a practice that I've done is I involve my senses. Okay, what did I see in that moment? What did I smell in that moment? What did I hear in that moment? What did I taste in that moment? What did I feel at the moment? And it sounds kind of cheesy when you do it at first, but you will find when you engage all of that, you learn more about what's happening in the moment. When you're actually having a joy moment, you can relate to it. But then B, you start to develop language that you can ask other people. And you can start even sharing those joy moments with other people. And you'd be surprised how much you can encourage other people by just sharing something that happened to you. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, well, this happened to me. And all of a sudden, the conversation's going from, I hate the weather to, you'll never believe what happened to me, you know? And so, yeah, I don't know if that encourages you or helps you, but it's a practice that's helped us out a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that advice, and I hope a lot of my listeners or whoever is watching can take it to heart and really start using it as fuel to start their own positive journeys.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, where can my listeners find you to inquire more or to, I guess, inquire about your services too that you offer?
Yeah, yeah. My easiest link is bethanyboring.com. And you can also email me, Bethany at, it's going to be long, but stepoutandthrive.com. Step Out and Thrive is the name of my business. And I also speak, love traveling and doing public speaking. And really, if anybody's either looking for, I do some one on one coaching, not as much anymore, but I really help. My passion, like I said before, is to really help groups work together. And so if you've got anything like that, you know, I'm all ears. I don't really turn much away. I try to help everybody that I can.
Awesome. Well, oh, thank you for your time, Bethany, and it was a pleasure having you.
Yes, it's been great. Thank you, David, and I love your podcast.
Well, if you guys want to listen to more of the podcast, you can go to YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and every other major podcasting outlet out there. And as always, I hope you all stay safe and stay blessed. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good one.